Statistics shows that a lot of small startup businesses fail in the first year. But why is that? How can you make sure that your small business is sustainable? Well, let's speak to our guests. Let's talk about how this is possible. How can we be in small business for the long term? Let's join me in the conversation and let's get talking.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Small Business Talk, our podcast. Today, we have a wonderful guest. His name is Willie, and obviously my wonderful co-host over here, Calvin.
Hi, everyone. Calvin here, and we're going to talk business today. And let's see what Willie, want to introduce yourself to?
I'm Willie. I've been in business for a number of years, just about 30 years, and I've been in the automation business. So home automation, and that's about the whole deal.
Awesome, welcome. Thank you, Willie. Hi there, everyone. Just a quick question to our guest here, Willie. You work in automation, gate automation, and apparently, Calvin and I were having a discussion before, and you rely mostly on return clients for your business. How did you do that? How did you retain those clients? And what did you do to get your reputation so good that people keep referring you?
Okay, it's actually very straightforward, and that is, whatever you do, you need to do it right the first time. Don't do a customer in, don't try to overcharge, and don't be a rat, because the rats are in a rat race. You need to be uniquely you and do what you need to do in order for your business to be recommended.
Yeah, but now, Willie, the automation business, isn't it very competitive, cutthroat competitive? I mean, there's so many places with automation gates. I'm sure it breaks. It's sure people get quotes. Just to get a little bit of a background before we really talk about entrepreneurship and small business. But you as a small business owner, I've always been interested in certain industries, like especially yours. What is that competition? How does that affect you?
Look, you will have a certain percentage of the market who buys price, who's absolutely focused on price. But the bottom line of business, in my experience, is you need to do what reconciles with your conscience. And for me, that goes about doing something right and doing your costing properly. You can't offer the market value if it's not a profitable, if there's no margins in it for you.
How do you tell your customer, because I've had it before, like no, I can't go lower. No, this is you can't tell them in the one way, look, just get out. You've got to be very diplomatic in the sense, but obviously you can't go, but you will always have that client or that customer that will want to push you lower, and especially small business entrepreneurs in the beginning, they undercut themselves, they bleed themselves.
Yes. Look, one has to do your costing properly and make sure of your facts. And there's no point in offering a customer your service or a product if it's under cost. It's as simple as that.
You're going to run a loss.
You're going to run a loss. You might just well sit at home and get poor, or you can go and work your yes, 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, and you still get poor.
Yeah.
So before you
draw that line in the sand.
Absolutely.
Do you agree that some people have this perception that if something is more expensive and it's higher priced,
Right.
that it's more valuable. So I will,
Right.
if for example, if you're sending me a quote and Pete's sending me a quote,
Right.
Pete's quote says 10 Rand, yours says 100 Rand,
Right.
I'm going to go with the 100 Rand one because I'm going to get a
Right.
better product or a better outcome.
Right.
Do you find that that happens with you, or is it not the case?
You know, at the end of the day, if you have that sort of discrepancy, you would have that 90% of the customers ask you, how did you get to your price? Why are you, if you have really made a significant impression on your market,
Right.
that customer is going to, at some point, make the sum in his head.
Look, there's a market-related price.
Oh, yes.
So you don't want to go too high or too low.
No.
But you are saying that the market is just as clever.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
No.
So you can't fool them, but they will always try to push you. But you can't. But yet you do find that you can up your price when you do give a better service or a better offer.
Yes.
Do you do that? Because I certainly do that.
Right. You're absolutely right, Calvin, in that way. If someone comes in and offers, in your example, 10 Rand service, he's got to have a reason why he's doing it.
Yes.
And if you have someone who comes in and gives 10 Rand worth of value to the market, the market is going to get, and whether it be the client then, if we then say so, or whether we say it's the value that we add to the market.
Right.
So it's going to be in relation to, if he's going to undercost himself, undercut himself, to try and be in the rat race, because it can become a rat race. It can be so cutthroat that whoever is running the race or doing the cutting is going to bleed to death himself. So my experience is just plain and simple in that regard, in that you offer the customer the facts.
Yeah.
Don't go out there and sell. That is not my I've got nothing to do about selling. I've got about offering the customer the real facts on a very objective basis, so that he can decide himself, weigh up the consequences, weigh up what he's getting, and then he buys.
Right.
The moment that I try to sell, something about the market, about customers in general, goes, where's the catch?
Yeah.
And then you land up in the rat race,
Yeah. You see
in the competition, in
I'm
other
with
words.
you, I'm with
Right.
you. Yeah. So they are thinking, but where's the catch? Where's the catch?
Exactly.
But you know, I'm just going to throw it out there because you know a lot of small business owners, you know, and I'm now talking about people that is just starting off, or in the first year or the second year. They're trying to get a foothold, and that's why they are reducing their price. But let's say you know your market, because Willie, you've been in business a long time. You're going to get the opposite happening, where people would want to, in other words, price is a very sensitive issue, and one of the reasons why I'm talking about sustainability is because, you know what, if you're taking a small profit margin home, how long are you going to be sustainable? Because I mean, your equipment needs. You need to reinvest in your equipment. You've got to reinvest. And if that profit is too small, there's not much to invest in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Look, there are various models to work by when you do a quote, when you do your costing. And the very basis is always, what is my expenses? So let's say that adds up to 100 Rand. Then you need to say, but and that includes your materials, it includes your labor, it includes, and these days petrol is a significant factor as well, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Examples. So you add up all your expenses, all your costs, and you need to say, what am I prepared to work for? What is my value? And then you need to say that I'm adding to that. And the only place that you can really go and cut down is either by doing it faster, or you're doing it smarter, or you start cutting on your own margins. So really and truly, where most of the margins lie is in doing it faster and doing it smarter.
But don't you find there's cycles, Willie? Don't you find there's cycles? Like, in other words, like certain times of the year, there's like good months and bad months, and because that can affect your sustainability if you haven't prepared for it.
Yeah. Look, for a new business, for anyone that's new to the market, one has to do your homework properly before you go into business. We're talking about new business now. For me, I always need to go back to the basics. I believe in that very, very strongly. Go back to the basics, and that basics is in a business plan. You know, people don't like to do the administration,
Yes.
technical people.
Yes.
But unfortunately, one has to have a blueprint that you can say, listen, this is what I originally planned. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how it's going to be financed. This is my market. And one has got to mix all of that together in order to have the right recipe. If you leave one of those alone, it's not going to work. So when it comes to seasonality of any business, and I'm pretty sure that there are lots of businesses who gained, for an example, through the COVID period, big time, out of this is the right season.
Yes.
People who never ever had the prospects, the opportunities during what happened in COVID, sanitization, PPE, etc., etc.
So you say there were opportunities that came out of it?
Oh yes, for very many people, and especially those who have been registered as essential services. Okay, and then during the year, every year, there are seasonal fluctuations as well in any business. From about middle December towards just before Christmas. Then for the service industry and even the building industry, that's why they call it the building holidays, from the 15th of December. Okay, nothing happens in the building industry. But for many people, yes, and in my industry as well, or in our industry. I was talking about the automation side, you know, whether it be gates or garages, whatever you can press with a button and have it switched on and off. So normally in our industry, we're talking about from end of December about till beginning of January. Then it starts picking up again, up to the end of middle of March or so. It slows down again.
But now, excuse me for asking now, but now knowing those cycles that you do,
Right.
would you go into debt for a downturn, knowing there's going to be an upturn where you can pay your debt back? In other words, do you use debt as a tool, or don't you believe in debt at all?
Look, I don't use credit at all in my business. Somewhere along the line, that needs to be paid back.
With interest.
With interest, and it comes with a lot of responsibility. So I strongly believe in do your business, cash, doesn't have to be necessarily notes, but do you have a positive cash flow? Let every month pay for its own expense. Whether it be a December late December, even January, where you have a downturn in the market, or whether it be a good month.
Yeah.
Every month, that should be your primary goal. If you don't have a profit in business, you shouldn't be in business.
You see, that is why I always ask about debt, because I get so various different answers about debt. Some people say, yeah, you can go in debt because you can go get out of it again. Antoinette, what is your view about this debt thing?
The debt thing, I'm still very much learning about. So I was told, or what I've learned recently is that use the bank's money. Use what's available to you. Sure. If you don't have the ability to do it. And once you make once you've used that money and it's made a profit, give it back, obviously.
Right.
But you must leverage.
Yeah.
Or I'm trying to leverage, or I'm trying to learn more about leveraging the bank's money to assist a business.
Right.
I think facilities exist for a reason.
Sure.
Yeah, but you see now there I want to also say what I agree with and don't agree with. It's like saying, you know what, debt is fine if you're that type of person that can manage it. Because remember, we are all different personalities, and you take somebody with debt, they'll just go deeper in debt. They're not using it as a tool. It's just another means of buying that smart car or thinking things will get better. So it's a very a different thing for a small business owner just to think you can go in debt. And Willie, I hear what you're saying. You would rather shy away from it because it could be a double-edged sword.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Never spend tomorrow's promise for business, whether it be a fantasy or real,
Right.
because we can never predict tomorrow. But never spend tomorrow today.
Yes.
Don't try and do that.
And savings, having a little backup or a little cushion.
Oh yes, you should always have that. And if you don't have at least some retainer from your profit margin that you can use as a reserves, then you shouldn't be in business either.
Right.
Because there should be another form of reserves. Most of the companies either financed the COVID period, those who survived it, and
a lot went into debt.
thank you very much. Yes, yes. And many of them had assets that they had to get rid of in order to become liquid, financially liquid.
Sold it at a ridiculous price. So a lot of people could take opportunity of those low prices.
Absolutely, but the opportunistic side of debt is also a very dangerous thing, because it is not a pragmatic decision. It's not a conservative way of approaching. So if you need, for an example, need to buy a new truck, example. And you know that your monthly expense, interest expense, plus your devaluation of that vehicle, is X amount. Should anything happen in the business, then at least you can sell the truck again for whatever amount that has depreciated. So the real expense is, what is the interest factor that you are paying monthly on that truck? Plus, what is the devaluation, the depreciation? So
And what value is that truck adding to your business? You see, because it could add a lot to your business, having a bigger truck than having a small truck, for example.
Having a truck, period.
Yeah.
As opposed to outsourcing your deliveries or your call outs or whatever.
Which in the long term could actually cost you more.
yes.
Yeah.
There are various ways of financing. If we're talking about financing within a business, and especially within a new business.
Right.
Within a new business, obviously there are different dynamics at play. Like for an example, you don't have a pattern yet as to what business ABC, new business ABC is doing, versus when you have been in business for 5 years, you recognize patterns. You know, it should become more predictable. although there's nothing guaranteed in business.
Yeah, but let me just touch on this thing, Willie. Yes, we've talked about finances now and all of that, and managing your business. But now, what if you want to grow your business and you need a bit of help? To what extent would you bring help on board?
It's a very good question.
Or would you subcontract?
That is always something that one has to go and sit down and make the sum. Because there's always a risk versus profitability.
Right.
No profitability comes with zero risk. If you do go into that deal, no, don't go there. So there's always the situation of how do you play that up against one another? And in my experience, especially these days with extremely hard labor laws, it is sometimes, and most of the time, or many a times, better to subcontract. And especially on a new business, because
But what if the subcontractors lets you down? Does that happen?
yes, and it happens even with staff letting you down. And even I let myself down even sometimes. So, so we're dealing with the human factor, eh?
It's a risk we run.
It is the risk we run. And
But now, just from your side, Antoinette, getting somebody on board, how do you know you choosing the right person to come and help you?
You trust your
Like in your charity, because she's run a couple of charities,
Well,
right?
I've worked with the various charities doing sales and marketing. So when we used to kind of employ our independent distributors, because we would have people working, it's obviously like a rep. How we would go about it, firstly, I'd find out if you have the same kind of values that I have with regards to charity or the business. We must be aligned. Our values must be aligned.
Okay, so you are saying you're looking for certain character traits. But then how much does training then also involve if you're going to take somebody on and you want training?
That the character traits determine whether they are trainable in the first place.
Yeah, because there I want to also ask Willie is that, let's say you get somebody on board and you've got to train that person. Won't you find that you're wasting your time training the person when you could have done the job?
Exactly.
look, at the end of the day, there's a golden rule about that. What is the value of your own time?
That's an important question.
Yes. So, if you don't have staff who has to do an essential service, an essential contribution towards the business,
Right.
then you either need to hire such a person, for an example, a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. I need to go and hire a lawyer.
Right.
And that's basically a subcontractor to the business.
Yes. Essentially, that's what
Oh, yes.
would be. Yeah.
Yes. I know a fair amount about accounting, and I know how to do the job,
Right.
but that is not essentially my role.
Yeah.
I need to be there to manage. And now one can say, am I working in my business? Am I working for my business? Am I doing everything? Which is not wrong either. It depends on your time, it depends on...
How big or small your business is,
Correct.
etc.
Capability and the profit margins. So
And if your staff that you have helping you or working for you are reliable and
Right.
trustworthy to do the job as good as you would,
Right.
as good as you trained them to do it.
At the end of the day, everyone in the whole business should be there to add a value to the market. Whether it be partially as a group in a team playing situation, whether it be as an employee or as a contractor, whether it be you doing all the functions within the business, what value is that business unit adding for me to the market? And that is the prime thing. The money will always follow.
Yeah, yeah.
As long as you do it with integrity. Exactly. Correct. As long as you do it with integrity, as long as you can look at the longer term thing, and that is what I have done. Would someone recommend that to someone else? You asked that question right in the beginning. And what is reconcilable with your own conscience and your own intuition? You were talking about the gut feel of hiring people. It goes about that for everything that you do in business. If you have that, when I get that nudge, hey, you're burning your fingers here, don't go there.
Get that gut feel. That
Yes.
you can go this way.
Then
Trust it.
90% of the time, trust it.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have seen it so many times in my own career and my own life where it didn't make sense, that gut feel. It didn't make sense. And wow. And I'm pretty sure that now with COVID just sort of behind us getting through sort of the last stages, many of the people who got in there worked on extremely narrow margins with huge debt risks that needed to be serviced. For an example, if you have an HPO or lease on a vehicle, we were talking about buying a truck or additional transport as well. That person, the real expense to the company is really the interest paid on that loan and the devaluation. So, but that's not all that goes into an installment. The rest of it goes somewhere along the line. The value of this must be done, must be paid for. So, strictly speaking, that is a value added factor to the business as a whole, because by the time that you've finished the HPO or the lease, at least that vehicle, that asset should have a value still.
Yes.
Okay, so it's call it then a saving up in a different way, building value in your business. But in COVID times, all those vehicles were standing, and the debt still needed to be and the depreciation still happened.
Willie, you see, you can't hurt a truck's feelings. You can't let a truck down. But if you've got a staff member, and that staff member is now going to go on half a pay, and the staff member, you see, the staff member is suffering, and you suffering because it's so. In other words, it's like with COVID and in down times, and that is why we're wanting to talk about that staff and to what extent do you subcontract, and to what, and you talked about the essential part of it. But no one is going to be more committed to your business than you are, and that's what I've found as well. So you are going to have people let you down, not just your staff, but like you say, people rent that you owe the rent to. People's going to let you down. So it does take a lot of commitment and persistence to go through. But now with COVID over, things are getting a little bit better, and because you've been in business a long time, do you find that we're talking about small business owners, and some small business owners are short time in business and other people are long time in business? And how long have you been in business?
3 decades.
Almost
Now,
just overall.
so now I want to ask, do you feel you are working just as hard?
I've learned to work a lot smarter. You know, that's a very is rational the right term? It's relational to, it is subjective. How hard are you working? As you're getting older, even the smallest thing becomes hard.
Do you worry less? Do you worry less? Do you plan less? Do you know what I'm saying? So you can still be working hard in the sense that you are still planning, you're still worrying about things, you're still trying to push things. You know, that never ends really as a small business owner.
No, it doesn't really. But it becomes a way of life. It becomes a lifestyle.
Summary on the closing. For you, with regards to you are you not a one-man show anymore, right?
My staff component is very small. Most of the work I do myself, and there are so no, I'm not completely on my own.
Yeah.
Okay, but I use subcontractors and contractors.
You've got a network.
Oh yes.
So if you had to give just one bit of advice on how to run a business like yours, what would be one key thing to keep in mind? Trust your gut, or bank, or whichever.
One key thing, your value that you add to the market, do that as long as it can reconcile with your conscience, and don't try and go and sell out there, just go and give facts. But be true to self, and I'm not an idealist that live in the clouds and in fantasy. I try to be pragmatic,
Right.
very, very conservative, in fact, sometimes maybe even, but I feel that the known is
Yeah.
always, for all of us,
Yeah.
the better option.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to summarize it in one word or one concept, but
That's
yeah.
perfect. So for my summary would be just going out there, just being true to yourself, adding value like you said, working with integrity, and just use your gut. Use your gut. It's your inner guidance system. If it fails you, it's life, but most times it won't.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, I agree with that totally, and the takeaway that I've got is that you've just got to keep on going. You just got to keep on going, and you got to persevere, because you know what you're offering, you know what value you're offering, and the market is gonna pick it up, and you've just got to persevere and keep going and ride those waves, those up times and down times. You've just got to learn how to ride those waves.
Absolutely.
Get your surfboard out and ride the waves.
I just want to say one thing, and that you were talking about retaining your existing customer base, and I would think that you asked it versus the fact of filling on new customers. There's always, for any business, there is always that balancing act.
Yeah.
So try and be on top of the balance.
Yes.
New people coming in versus your references,
Yes.
versus your existing customer base, and that can be a very, very, very tricky situation. But never take on more than what you can chew.
Absolutely.
Never, ever, because growing too fast.
Deliver.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
I just want to end off by saying thank you to Willie, our guest today. Thank you to my wonderful co-host Calvin, and
a
obviously
pleasure.
thank you to all of you for tuning in. Please come back and give us a like, give us a share.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Great.